Hey, in this video I'm going to tell you about how Walt Disney built his greatest creation, Disneyland, and what can you take from it and apply to achieve your goals and succeed yourself. This is the subject of this episode, and all of it is taken from the book, the original book of Neal Gabler, Walt Disney, The Triumph of the American Imagination, that I learned about thanks to the podcast founders. And it's a 900-page book. Here you're going to get great insights and the lessons I took from it in a much shorter period of time, right? And if you're new here, you might be wondering, why should I listen to this guy? Well, my name is Ivaldi Sako. I went from being lost, depressed, and broke personal trainer from a poor immigrant family in France to working with millionaires and building my own business up to 7 figures soon. And here, what I try to do is just to document what I learned during my week on my journey to building a great business and becoming a better human, growing as a human being. And I just document all of this in one condensed, short, magical weekly experience in which I just tell you everything that I learned to become truly free and successful and live a great life. I also have different world records, right? So I was, for example, I took cold showers, not for 30 days straight, not for 60 days straight, not for 3 months, but for 5 years in a row with not a single cheat. Well, no, actually, I did take some kind of vacations, but most of the time I just took 5 years a cold shower every single day. Or I've also a record of eating only meat, not just for a day or two, but for 3 months straight, right? So I do these kind of things, and a lot of people think that they can learn a lot from a person like that. So if you think that any of this could serve you, any of the things that I talk about to grow, become better, make more money, become better as a human being. I'm also Christian, so I talk sometimes about my faith. And if any of this interests you, subscribe, because you'll learn a lot of very useful and unique insights and golden lessons that will help you prevent you making the mistakes I make, but also help you achieve your goals faster, right? So if this interests you, consider subscribing because it will serve you a lot. And let's step into this week's magical learning experience. I call them weekly learning magical experience because you can actually just experience the learning I did learn and take from it and actually change your life from it, right? So this is why it's a magical experience, because it's really rare that you can take a lot of knowledge like this in something like this if you actually apply it, if you go through it like I'm going to tell you right now. So just remember to take quick notes on on your phone, and to remember what you learned and actually apply it. And I'm going to give you the golden lessons here in the storyline in which I got them during my week. And I'm just going to tell you about Walt Disney right now. But ask yourself, how could I use this in my life? This is the goal of this podcast, to help you get these insights in a much shorter time frame, but also help you change your behavior from it. So how could you use this in your life? This is the goal. And let's get into it. I'm going to go through the bullet points and ask yourself, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean for me? So first thing I wrote is, it took Walt Disney 35 years into his career, failing, learning, trying new things, getting some success, failing, and all of this 35 years into his career, then only he built his greatest creation, Disneyland. Not before. Sometimes we're impatient. That's the lesson, I guess, here. Sometimes you want to get there faster, but just be okay. That your greatest work will not come years into your career. And this means that you need to choose the right thing to work on, because you cannot spend 35 years on a lot of things, right? So you need to know really what's the vision from the beginning and start with the end in mind to be able to build this great career and finally create the best work that you can. Also, he built something he wanted. He looked internally. This means that he didn't look at the competition. He didn't look at what were people doing, what was the trend or anything like this. He just looked at what he wanted. What would he want to see happen in the world? What world he liked, and what he didn't like really in his current world, right? So he wanted to escape most of his life. And so he tried to build an escape from life. Like this is just a giant escape, right? He looked internally. He looked at just like what he wanted to do really. And sometimes we just don't look at this. We just look at, okay, what the market wants, right? And this is a good thing, but to build something really awesome that the world needs, and that maybe sometimes the world doesn't know that it needs, you have to look inside. Sometimes I believe God puts desires and things in us. Desires or just things that make you feel bad, just things that bother you, right? Inside of you, so that you can just solve this for yourself and for the world. So looking inside is a really great way to know, okay, what's the path? Where do I need to go? Where do I need to pivot? What are going to be the steps? So ask yourself, how can I use this? Am I on the right path right now? Is it something that I looked internally to build? Or is it something that I looked at the market? Maybe how could you transition? How could you look internally and use something internal to build something great? He took advantage of any technology anyone built and used them instead of thinking of TV as a threat, as most people in his industry did. He looked at it as an ally, right? He said, a lot of people are going to watch my Disney movies on there, right? On TV. It's going to be a good thing. And so, he used any technology. Like maybe you can ask yourself, what are the technologies that I can use right now that could be an ally for me, that I'm looking at it maybe as a threat? Maybe AI is going to take over your industry and you might think, this is a threat. Think of it as, how could I use this? How could this help me make my product better, right? Make the customer, how can I use this to improve the business or to improve, to help me achieve my goal? He built an amusement park when all the amusement park were looked down upon, because like they were like a kind of dirty places and not really like fancy, like just much the contrary of fancy. And when people told him, why would you want to build such a thing? He said, because mine won't be like that, right? He wanted to do something that was never been done before. He wanted to, for example, he looked at this industry as something that was full of second-rate product. This is a great quote that I got from the Founders podcast. I think Steve Jobs as well did this, which I think maybe he took from Disney, Walt Disney, and he just looked at the market and found industries full of second-rate products, and then he just decided to go on and just create an awesome product. And Walt Disney saw all the amusement parks and decided, okay, I want to build one that is not like that is going to be awesome, right? And he did. He had to hire set designers instead of architects. He didn't think of building Disneyland as a city, like at least not as a normal city, right? He did wanted to make it into a city, but he didn't think of building it as a city. He thought of building it as a story. From the beginning until the end, he built it as a story, and so it was it told a story. Like when you go into it, it tells you a story, right? You enter in one entry when all the amusement park before were had multiple entries, right? So you could see the park from all around it, and in Disneyland you couldn't. It's a story, it's a secret story from inside, and there are like a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees that hide Disneyland. You cannot see it from outside. You have to enter into one entry and go through the story to discover it. And this is something that was never done before. Also, the TV networks paid Disney to advertise on his own amusement park, right? So he built Disneyland and he was able to advertise it for free and actually get paid to advertise it on TV networks. Why? Because he created awesome movies, right? He had his movies in his world, right? That TV networks wanted to pay to get viewers on because his movies were so great. His creation was so great that they wanted them on their networks for people to come and see. And when people came and see Disney movies, it automatically advertised his amusement parks, right? His amusement park was advertised thanks to his previous creation. So here he kind of created his world, right? This is why you want to look internally, because if you look internally, everything that you're going to build kind of an ecosystem, right? Like Apple, like Steve Jobs built an ecosystem. It's something that there's always something that you see. It's like it's related, right? It's in the same industry. Like Disney created like movies. He created like Mickey Mouse, right? And this built on top of each other, and then he built an amusement park around this, and it was always around this imaginary world. And he created his own language at Disney. We don't have customers, we have guests. We're not employees, we're hosts and hostesses. We don't have crowds, we have an audience. Ticket takers don't have jobs, they have roles. And people that worked at Disney were like cast members. The park was the show. It was not a park, it was a show. And through which the audience first entered in through the outer lobby, which was just the parking lot, right? But he called it the outer lobby. And they don't do rides, but adventure. Adventures is what they do. They don't do rides. It's an adventure that you go through. Every word that they use to describe their world is like inside of the world. It creates an experience. Like every word must reflect the magical experience of Disney. And their thing was that they wanted to create happiness. Like we want to create happiness. Like everything is good. Everything is happy. Everything is in a great world. And this all comes from Walt Disney's enthusiasm. Like if it wasn't for Walt Disney enthusiasm, much of this would not have happened. His enthusiasm was contagious to his employees, and then when he spoke to the world about the Disneyland, right? When he spoke to the world about this, he was able to speak about it, and it's oftentimes the job of the founder, the job of the business owner to publicly speak about their company. A lot of time when it's not the actual founder that sells his company to the world, it doesn't create as much as an effect, right? Steve Jobs made his presentation for the iPhone, for the MacBook, right? The Macintosh, I think it was. And they were the ones like on the lines, like doing the thing. Walt Disney actually presented Disneyland. He presented it. He sold it. They didn't pay someone to do it because they wouldn't have the same enthusiasm, the same energy, the same like contagious passion for the thing. And so you wouldn't have like this emotion would have gone through other people. Also, they focused. No, before that, Walt Disney hired people to build the next Disney. And there was no processes. People. I think I made a mistake here. He hired people to build Disney. And there was no processes to build like Disneyland, right? This is the point. And so he just hired people that would have to do something that has never been done before. And so they had to be comfortable with the lack of processes. And this is something that is really hard for me. To me, I'm really like, I need structure. I need to create structure. You'll forgive me, I'll have to open the door a little bit here because it's getting very hot and my phone is going to overheat again. So he hired people to do a job that has never been done before. And so because of this, they had to improvise. They had to just hire great people that would be able to adapt and do a job that has never been done before. And so this has a lack of processes. And so sometimes you just build a great company and you just know where you want to go and you don't have the processes in place because you're doing something new. And so what I tried to do in the beginning was to create the processes in the beginning when I was trying to do something that has never been done before. So I just wasted a lot of time trying to create the processes, multiple processes, that then I had to revise and just work on again because they were not complete. I just imagined what it would look like to do this, and this is good to have a kind of maybe a framework, but I was too attached to the process. And I have to be able to, sorry for that, I have to be able to have a lack of processes to be able to grow faster and adapt on the field to build something new. Also, they focus on the thousands of little details. The best leather straps on the seats individually, all these details that he focused on, Walt Disney, like individually they were nothing. But when you take all these things together and you see the picture with all of these little details inside of them, it creates something awesome. It creates something extraordinary and something visually that is very appealing. And so you might think right now that you're focusing on a small detail. Now, there's a caveat to that because sometimes you are going to actually focus on small details that don't really matter, right? But when you do focus on an important big goal, the small details in that, especially when it's about the product and the client experience, these things are extremely important, right? So when you focus on all these details, they add up to create an amazing experience. Walt Disney was a perfectionist at work, right? So we often have a negative conception of being a perfectionist is bad. Now, it can be bad when it's really just a procrastination. Like you're using your perfectionism to just not do anything or just to not work on important things. When you are a perfectionist, you just do have very high expectations and demand, and you don't want to lower your standard. And this is what he did. And so he hated his people trying to cut corners using cheap plastic at places people wouldn't notice, right? So it's just in the back of the seat. People are not going to notice here, right? And Walt Disney just didn't care. He just wanted everything to be perfect, everything to be like very high quality. He used the best leather, even in the places that people just don't see. The best steel, the best quality steel, to just have the best built, because people will notice in the grand scheme of things. Also, he had a deadline to finish the park, right? And they built it in 1 year. It's insane what you can do in 1 year. And the day of the opening, it was 20% finished. Just imagine, you're opening a big park. He's already pretty famous, and he is announcing something that is built at 20%, right? And so when he announces it, he's anxious. He doesn't feel good. He's depressed, but he still held a good exterior look to not mess it up, just try to act like everything's fine. And the opening was good, but it quickly became a mess. The boats in the Disney park, right? The boats It's insane what you're going to hear right now. Like if you just imagine it's your thing, right? To me, I really care about the people getting what their money's worth and just having a great experience, because it's kind of my worth at the same time. Like I don't want them to think Ivaldi has built something like this. This is what he built, really? I would be really like ashamed of building something not good. And so the opening became a mess. The boats stopped working, and the guests in the middle of the water, and the guests had to swim to shore. The concrete was still hot, and the women's high heels were getting stuck in it. They ran out of food and of water. People had to pee in the bushes. It was a total mess, a total confusion on set and on camera, because they were recording this. But it was the celebration of the birth of a dream. And Disney said Disneyland would never be finished. It would be a living dream, constantly improving. This was his thing. Like, his product is just not done. It's just never done. It's just, you can always improve. It's not perfect. It's always improving. And he also said something that I found very useful, and I think I'll end on that, is that when he worked at Disney, at the Disney studio, right, making his movies and everything, he was still relying a lot on alcohol. He was drinking a lot. And when he worked at Disneyland, he didn't need to. He didn't need to drink. He felt at home. He loved the environment, and he was already in his escape, because he used alcohol before to escape, right? And when he was in Disneyland, he didn't need this escape anymore. And I think the goal for a lot of us is to stop needing this escape. Stop needing the alcohol, stop needing the Netflix, the TV show, the thing that just distracts you from your goal, because you're kind of anxious, you're kind of not just in the place, in the right frame of mind. You need to be able to not have the need for an escape, and for your thing to actually be the escape. Now, I think this is very hard to do when you're not all in. It's very hard to do when you have distractions. When you have Netflix aside, and you can watch here and there Netflix, it's very hard. It's been like 2 months now. I haven't watched a single movie or single TV show, except for one, and it was because it was one that was recommended at church. It was about my faith. It was the movie Fatima, which I really recommend you watch. It was just this one time I went to the movies and I watched it, and that's it. But apart from them, I didn't watch anything, and I was kind of addicted again to movies. This is like something like just I've been struggling with a lot, because I needed a lot of time, for a long time, an escape from the stress of I'm not good enough. Is this going to work? When you start not needing this escape, your work becomes better and more enjoyable. Hopefully this serves you. If it did, share it with someone that you think it might help. Leave a like if you like this, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Take care.